Welcome to the Veronica Edwards Show, where we have fun, financial conversations that everyone listening can apply to their personal and professional life. I'm your host, Veronica Edwards, CPA, and we are back season 5 in 2025, completely independent and sponsored by my business, Balance Virtually LLC. And I just want to thank everybody for being so supportive during this journey in season 5. Not only did we come back post Hurricane Helene, which now when this airs, it'll be 8 months since North Carolina was really rocked, especially Western North Carolina, by that storm. But also we transitioned to being on YouTube. And I'm so excited to say last week we had over 800 views during the week. So I'm super excited. Thank you, V team, for supporting. We are still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. We have 27 and we're thankful for that 27. And we just want you guys to remember that you can always go back to listen to prior episodes and the current episodes audio only at veronicaedwards.buzzsprout.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel, The Veronica Edwards Show, to see the current shows from season 5, like the one that's going to air today. So today's guest is an integral part of the Veronica Edwards Show as the executive producer, Aaron Mittan. But today we are going to be discussing his true passion, which is firearm training and home security consulting. So today's show is the last part in a 3-part series that started last spring before the storm. And we definitely wanted to wrap it all up this season. So before we jump in, I would like to give a quick little background on Aaron, which is very impressive. Aaron is the proud owner of Force Multiplier Solutions LLC, a company that that's making firearm training and home security consultation accessible across Western North Carolina. His services range from North Carolina concealed carry certifications to home and business emergency planning, individual and group firearm training, firearm selection assistance, and everything is tailored to the needs of a student, which I can attest to that. Aaron's extensive background makes him the perfect person for this work. He is a proud Army reservist currently in the second half of his military career, with honors including a combat tour in Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom, distinguished graduation from the Army's basic leadership course, and several awards for leadership and technical excellence. After returning home, Aaron pursued a degree in firearms technology at Sonoran Desert Institute, earned multiple certifications, including NRA instructor and range safety officer. Wow. And he also worked firearm retail management and public safety education. Wow, wow, wow. So again, I would love to welcome back my friend and expert guide on this firearm journey, Mr. Aaron Mittan. How
Wow,
are
thank you so
you?
much. Yeah, I'm great. It's so cool being on video now.
I
And
know.
it's funny too, because every other time that we've hopped on, I'm like, it's so weird being behind the mic. I'm usually behind the board, and I don't know if the camera will, oh wait, I control the production. I can make sure you guys can't see me over here adjusting the levels and everything while you're doing the monologue. But wow, you covered it all. There's that's a wrap. There's nothing to talk about.
You have accomplished a lot. And for those that don't realize, Aaron is not 50, 60 years old. He's accomplished a lot in his 31 years. And I just want to thank you again, Aaron, for helping me on this transition, because I didn't have a producer. I didn't know what I was going to do after Biz Radio had to shut down due to the storm. And Aaron also really pushed me, guys, to get on YouTube. I got very comfortable the last 4 years, just audio. And I was like, should we just do YouTube like once a month? You were like, yeah, no, we should do it.
No, they want to see you have way too good a hair to not be on video.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. Well, we're talking about you today. So as I discussed, this is the third part. So the first part, May 2024, we introduced everyone to the world of responsible firearm ownership. And then part 2 was just a month later in June, where we really dug deeper into what do you do now that you're ready to purchase a gun? Next steps, if after you have the gun, if you do want to get the concealed carry. And that's what leads us to today's show. So I would love, Aaron, if you can just start telling us a little bit about what does it take to get the North Carolina concealed carry permit, the training, what's all involved, the fees, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like what we've talked about before, there are a lot of different elements that go into making that decision of purchasing a firearm, getting training, and being safe and responsible with firearm ownership. That extends even more so when you decide to carry or would like the option to carry. By all means, absolutely, I encourage anybody to exercise, that ability and that right. The As far as, there's kind of two sides to that answer. The first side is to, despite whatever the laws are in your state, we're in North Carolina, so we require a concealed handgun permit. But some of the surrounding states have what's called constitutional carry or permitless carry. Even if you're in a state and you're listening in from Tennessee, South Carolina, whatever it may be, the first part of that is seek education, become familiar and capable with this tool, with being able to not only be safe with the firearm, but also be effective. Lord forbid you ever have to use it. The second part of that is, what is the process in North Carolina? It's pretty simple. So people like myself who are CJ certified to teach the concealed carry class, it's a state mandated 8-hour course. In addition, you have to do a live fire qualification. The course covers kind of, as you know, which really I should ask you from your perspective, but the course kind of covers a lot of the basics, obviously, safe handling, the 4 universal gun safety rules, those kinds of things that we've talked about, and the laws governing concealed carry in North Carolina and the use of lethal force. So that's like kind of one of the, I know I'm talking a little more about other states, but that's something that I want to kind of impress on people is, how many times in the class are you kind of surprised that that's the law? In especially, there's a lot of misunderstanding around unholstering or brandishing a firearm, or where you can carry, where you can't. For those states, and it might be us one day too. Senate Bill 50 is in the works right now to make North Carolina permitless carry. Now, if that's going to pass, we don't know, but it's a great opportunity to go ahead and say, hey, become familiar with the laws, become familiar with, obviously operating the firearm, but, you'd be surprised how much there is to learn. And so, even though it's an 8-hour class, I'm glad that North Carolina mandates a little bit of mandates that training, but also gives the instructor a lot of leeway to really emphasize some of those, different aspects of carrying. We cover everything with different types of holsters, different safes, how to store it in your home, and some of the other services that I offer, which is kind of the bread and butter of my business, is some of the one-on-one training and everything. We expand on a lot of those same principles, which you've attended. So you basically take that course, you'll take that certificate over to the sheriff's office, turn it in, and they will, I think they take did they take your fingerprints?
They did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll take your fingerprints. They'll run a background check. The background check is the same exact one that they run. It's a NICS for purchasing a firearm, and you'll answer a lot of the same questions that you would on a 4473 that you fill out anytime you purchase firearm from a dealer. And then, yeah, if you're in Buncombe County, you'll wait about 12 years, and then you'll get
Still waiting.
It's what they say, 60 and 90 days
Yes.
turnaround time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of the surrounding counties are a lot quicker. You usually see it within 30 days.
Well, I wasn't too upset because I like that they're checking all the things. I think they also mentioned they check mental health background, and that background check is not just criminal. And I really, really feel like, regardless of what happens for North Carolina, that people should get education, because it wasn't until we did the class, because another great perk to Aaron services is that he will come to you. So Aaron came to my house. He did the test for myself and my husband, Carlos. And I was just like, do we really got to do all 8 hours? And Aaron was like, yeah, we got to do all 8 hours. But I learned a lot. There was a lot of things that I feel like me being a person that never held a gun until Aaron came to the house and made it comfortable for us to hold a gun and going to the shooting range. I really just thought once you have that concealed carry, you could pull your gun out at any time. And learning about the gun safety laws with not putting your finger on the trigger, not pointing at something, when we see these things on TV, it feels like all these accidents happen all the time and the gun just kind of, you drop it, it goes off. And it's like, no, that's not the case. But it is good to know all of the safety, because the last resort is pulling your firearm out, I feel like.
Yeah. And there's kind of a debate in regard to the constitutional carry and whatnot. Just want to clarify too. I absolutely support training. Obviously, I've modeled my whole life around providing accessible education about this, and you nailed it. That is my passion, and I'm trying my best to monetize that passion and stop giving my services out for free. But,
yes.
Most of your audience can resonate with that. One of the big kind of debates is, and a lot of the people kind of in my position and in the industry are a little torn on it, is that fundamentally you have the right to carry, to bear arms, to have the ability to protect yourself and your family.
Correct.
However, it's a dangerous item if you don't know what to do with it. So, identifying if carrying should require training or not, I'm a little torn, because I think everybody should educate themselves, but there's a thin line between, okay, what should be mandated and what is the responsibility of the individual, of the citizen. So basically where I'm coming from with it is, I'm going to emphasize build a platform, build a community, try to emphasize getting out there and training and signing up for some classes. But
yes.
I think as more and more states, because now closer to 50% of the states have adopted permitless carry. Now that that's becoming more popular, we're going to have kind of a conversation amongst all of us, no matter what side of the subject you land on. How do we standardize education and hold ourselves accountable to do that?
Yeah, it was eye-opening to me when we were at the outdoor shooting range that you work at, and we're watching other folks that probably have been shooting guns for decades, and they were doing it wrong. And they were giving bad advice to people that were new to shooting guns. So it just made me feel better knowing that I had somebody with all of your credentials, that had all the certifications, that was ensuring safety. We talk about, once I get that concealed carry permit and I get the gun that I like, because Carlos and I have a few guns, but I want to get a cute personalized pink or red gun or something like that. But there's some shooting ranges where they don't follow the safety rules sometimes. And so you want to know your rights. To me, it's no different from if you're now the young kids, when they have to get a license, you have to go to driving school. Or if I'm going to carry heavy machinery, again, a gun is a tool. And so I feel like, yes, you should take it upon yourself to get education, but I'm hoping that they still keep it required, because you just got people that just learn the wrong way. It's like when I learned how to swim, there's so many bad habits. People can figure it out, but the journey to get there, it's like, why even go through all that pain? It was so nice being in the comfort of my home. And you also showed us how we can secure our home. Like you mentioned, the different type of holsters, all of these things that I would never had known just Googling it, or if I would have just went to a gun shop and purchased a gun.
Yeah. And welcome to the big debate in my industry, because the difference is, driving on state roads using big equipment and everything is a privilege, as to where carrying or being able to defend yourself is a right. So there's kind of the big difference, and there's the big debate of like, of what degree do we mandate this. But that aside, that's exactly what I'm kind of trying to pierce through, as I talked about in the first episode, is I identified kind of a gap of, there's already there's already enough of a barrier in purchasing that firearm, as nerve-wracking as it may be, and as unfamiliar, plus especially for females, especially for minority females, where it can be intimidating. And I've seen it. I used to manage a gun shop where they're very nervous, or they bring other people that aren't firearms experts in with them, just so that they have have a buddy to be able to go in there and kind of calm the nerves. And seeing how much of a difference it makes to kind of have somebody guide them in and be nice, listen, be very cognizant of what some of the limitations are. That's essentially what I've translated over to instructing. And little things like I have a client right now. She's never touched a gun in her life, and so she really wants that one-on-one. Basically, kind of think of me more of like a personal trainer than a standard firearms instructor. Is everything from, I'll go to the gun shop with you, we'll look at different things, so you do have that buddy in there with you, kind of answering those questions and kind of helping you feel a little more comfortable. But yeah, she's like, I'm really nervous, I just want to know the basic rules first, and then we'll kind of build on that. So I just showed up to her house with a little toy gun from Walmart. Actually, you've used the toy gun.
Yes.
And yeah, went through the full manual of arms, went through all the safety procedures and everything. And then it's like, okay, let's, I'll double, triple check to make sure this weapon is clear. Well, you ready to handle the real thing? And I think a lot of firearm instructors, to no fault of their own, they're, there's definitely an impact to focus on volume, because you want to expand this education as much as possible, and teach what right looks like to as many people. Absolutely. I kind of battle with that too, with the individualized thing, is like, oh, I want to be able to reach more people. And I think, stay tuned. I think content creation is going to be the pathway for that. Ooh. But yeah, right. But the I think it's also really important to be able to have that positive individual experience, because that much people just like yourself, you have this platform that really has nothing to do with my industry, but there's been there's been so much development and so much excitement, and I've been so proud of you, seeing you like go through the whole process and really utilize my company and my vision and what I provide to the Appalachian area, and see the benefit of it. And I mean, little things from just like, hey, I'm kind of nervous about this, all the way to like, now you're shooting tight groups, you're like you're into, and Carlos he's wide open with it.
Carlos is a sharpshooter. Yeah, he Aaron, we didn't talk too much about the test, but after you have the 8-hour class, you have the written test. Carlos made 100%. I think it's only 20 questions. I'm a person where once Aaron told me you had to get 70%. I was like, I'm just going to make sure I get 70%. I think I got 80. Same thing at the shooting range. I was like, wait a minute, there's a shooting test, which I'm kind of glad I didn't know, because I probably would have dragged my feet a little bit more, because I would have been, like you said, very nervous. I hadn't shot a gun in a year. And my first time shooting a gun was with Aaron too. So we go out there. Carlos makes 100% again. I was in the 80s and 90s, but you just made us feel so comfortable. You came in the house. Aaron and I both have children under the age of 10. So naturally, I'm watching the news with my son. He's seeing people that look like him get shot all the time. So he's nervous. And then when we showed him, this is a play gun. Then when we showed him the real gun, we were like, hey, there's no ammunition in here. It's nowhere near the gun. And that's part of those universal gun safety laws. Aaron, if you don't mind stating those again, because I feel like that's really important. And that was the premise of all of your training, which made me feel very comfortable, was that we took out the notion that we're just going to have this random accident and the gun's going to hurt me or it's going to hurt my family. If we follow these safety rules, you really eliminate any accidents, honestly.
Yeah. The, I mean, just like a chainsaw or a weed whacker or anything, like it's not going to do anything. It's not going to work if you don't, use it. You don't turn it on. You don't pull the little, trigger. But yeah, so the 4 universal gun safety rules are always assume the firearm is loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Don't point the muzzle at anything you don't intend to destroy, and know your target and what's around and beyond your target. You follow those 4 rules, absolutely nothing bad can ever happen, and they kind of cover each other too. It takes some training. Like it's not very normal for people to. You'll see a lot of people will just like in the movies, they'll grab the gun with the finger on the trigger.
Yes.
Grabbing things like this is not a normal motion. You don't grab your drink like that.
There's so many times Aaron's at the house, he's like, "You're flagging me, you're pointing the gun at me." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Or my hand's on the trigger, but it takes repetition. That's why I think your services is so needed and great, because we don't know. And sometimes people will just, "Oh, I don't know, so I just won't do it at all." Nope. It's just like you said, it's a foreign language. It's a new thing. You just have to keep practicing.
Yeah, and especially like there's a lot of verbiage to it, especially since the kind of the firearms industry is so influenced by military and law enforcement culture and whatnot. A lot of that training and what you've learned over hundreds of years of policing or combat or whatever it may be, that's kind of one of the big things that I've modeled the whole business off of, is how to translate those things that I've learned and other people, more so what I've soaked up from my experience and talking to other people and training and everything, how to translate that over to the civilian side, and how to translate that to where it's easy to consume for the everyday person. And I think that that's so important, because it can be so intimidating, even just going on to YouTube and watching some of the videos of people just running around doing all this crazy stuff. Like, that's a great motivator if you get into the sport of it, and want to, train and get to that level. But yet again, there's kind of a lot, contributing to that feeling of nervousness and like kind of, like, am I even kind of qualified to do this? And
right.
so
There's a lot of
you dip
self-doubt.
into like, you dip into, insecurities and kind of imposter syndrome a little bit. Like, well, I didn't grow up around guns, so I'm just going to keep that going. And so, I really am here to break it. I'm also not revolutionizing anything. I'm transferring over the knowledge and experience that I've gained from other people. And so, I think that there's just like what I teach in the classes is finding that balance between safety and accessibility and the ability to be able to protect yourself, whether that's, security, emergency planning, the actual defensive and dynamic shooting, or just basic marksmanship. Finding that balance really translates over to life as well, of being able to, not let this new thing fully subsume kind of your daily activities or anything. You still want to live your life. You just want to live your life with the ability to protect yourself safely. And that's what it's all about.
Ooh, you put a nice bow on that. And before we wrap up, Aaron, I would love for you to talk about the services that you provide, this 8-hour course. Does it have to be in person? Can it be virtual? How much are your services? And also you mentioned, I went through the shooting range. So how much of a time commitment is it for folks if they're just like me that have never shot a gun, but they want to get their North Carolina concealed carry?
Yeah. So, if you want to go the concealed carry route, I offer that just $80 a head. Again, it's state mandated 8-hour classroom portion. And then the second day is usually like a half day, depending on the size of the class.
So it has to be in the classroom, cannot be virtual.
It has to be in person. Yeah.
Got it.
To be in person. So yeah, that's typically on a weekend. I'm doing concealed carry about once a month. I'm booked out for a little while.
Nice.
But I do have availability for the one-on-one individualized training, which can vary in any degree. Basically, how it works is, you send me, shoot me an email, visit my website, contact me, DM me on Instagram. I don't care. Just contact me somehow. And what we'll do is we'll schedule an initial consultation, and I'll just kind of see where you're at with your experience in firearms. If the answer is 0, then great. You know, I have basically kind of like a decision tree for all different type of scenarios where we'll figure out where you land on it, and then we'll build out a training regimen or consultations that are answering the things that you directly want to see, so you're not having to sign up for a cookie cutter. Now the concealed carry class is cookie cutter. I can try to make it as entertaining as possible, but that's all state mandated material. The stuff that I do is influenced by a bunch of different organizations and experience. There's military in there. There's civilian education. There's some of the shooting styles and whatnot are a little bit of competition, a little bit of, you know,
you give a good
cool
background.
things.
Yes.
But yeah, from there we'll decide, like, hey, do you want to feel a little more comfortable in your home? Do you want to, you know, are you expecting kids, or do you have kids and you know that the guns are locked away in a safe in the garage and they're not accessible, and you just don't know how to
bridge that gap, right?
Or if you're somebody that's like, hey, I'm brand new to this and I want to become who I'm seeing on YouTube and I want to become great, then we will go from every step of the way, and that's really what I love doing is kind of like a someone as a fishing guide or whatnot. It's like, hey, let's stand in the backyard and do some casts first, and then we'll get out on the water on the shore, and then we'll get in a boat, and then I'll teach you how to steer the boat. And so it's the same type of deal of we'll hit every element of and starting with just basic marksmanship, basic weapon handling and safety, and then just evolve from there and eventually get into that defensive and dynamic shooting. There are a lot of really cool courses that I do, and again, it's individualized. So we'll like one of them is elements of executive protection. That's protecting like a high value individual. How to apply that to your family. How to use executive protection in your family. And so one of the prerequisites in that is a defensive driving, quick little class, like 1 hour of defensive driving, where I'll hop in the car with you and I'm like, hey, here's how you put on that lens of defensive driving. And then from there, we'll learn how to orient the vehicle, how to dismount, how to engage a threat, and how to get your family off the X, all kinds of, and that's just one of some of the really cool things that.
And when you mentioned on the X, the target, I've learned that from you. X is the target. And, you know, I'm glad that you're giving these tips. That's one thing I wanted to ask you before you go is what is the best way to build that confidence? Because we could go through all of this, like I went through this course with you, but then a year went by before I took the test and Helene and all these other things. So that anxiety builds up. So do you recommend that people do it quickly, but then continue to have ongoing training? Like what is your biggest advice when it comes to really feeling confident as a gun owner?
Yeah, as far as to build the confidence to, no pun intended, but to pull the trigger on it. I would say, you know, reference back, we have this, you know, we have a very recent thing to look back at and what we traversed and what we got through, and especially the people in this area surviving Hurricane Helene and being able to lean on each other and build that community quickly, and realizing kind of what some of the existential threats are and what some of the how little control on certain things like infrastructure and whatnot you have. You know, the ability to protect yourself is something that you have control of, and it takes your own will and you know, discipline to go ahead and make that decision for you and your family, and you know, basically, not to sound cheesy, but that's where I come in with open arms, saying like, hey, welcome to my community, welcome to to firearm ownership, and let's just guide you onto where you need to be with it, all the way up to the point that you're comfortable with, and then hopefully beyond. So, kind of the second part of that is absolutely, sustained training. It's absolutely a perishable skill. I run into that all the time. I shoot far less than I ever did once I started instructing. And so some of my split times and some of my performance has kind of gone down, but which is funny because I do it for a living now. But
so, Aaron, how often would you say? Because I'm waiting on my concealed carry
mhm.
permit to come in. I applied once this airs 2 months ago, so it should be coming in soon. But I haven't been to the shooting range since I passed the
Yeah.
test back in end of February or so. So now it's been 3 months, and that confidence is starting to come down. So, what would you recommend if it's at least once a month? Because not everybody
Yeah.
could get to a range every week. What's the minimum you would think?
So I call it the 70-30 rule. If you follow that, then you'll sustain your ability, and you'll have, or like your shooting proficiency, and you'll be able to build skills without having to go to the range all the time. That's one of the biggest misconceptions, is like, oh man, and you kind of beat yourself up like, oh man, I haven't been to the range
Right.
forever. Like, and then you go and you're not as good as you were fresh after the class. The 70-30 rule is 70% of your training should be done at home with dry fire drills and practice.
Ooh, dry
Obvious.
fire drills. That's
Mhm.
one thing I really appreciate that you did at home. And you did that with real guns and with the toy guns. So I thought
Mhm.
that was cool.
Yeah, you can just do it with your hands. You can watch a show. Anytime you see a certain character pop up, just make sure that muscle memory is still there. That
Mhm.
there's a lot of little things. Just kind of, if you take some of my more advanced classes, then we talk a lot about having that lens on, being able to turn on and off that lens of okay, if something pops off, or if like I need to take action, what does that look like? How am I prepared for it? Whatnot. But yeah, that 70% dry fire drills and practicing at home, and then 30% going to the range. So
Okay.
it kind of depends on how much you're training at home.
Mhm.
If you're every week, you're taking 10-15 minutes a day, 3 days a week, to just get a little bit of dry fire drill in, that adds up. That would absolutely warrant every couple weeks coming out to the range. And the purpose of it is you come to the range to verify that the work you're doing at home is working. So
Right.
if you're noticing your shot group is a little to the right, that might be where your finger is located on the trigger, or it might be because you're just gripping a little too hard, whatever it may be. And then that's where you can come out to the range. You don't need me beside you every single
Yes, we do,
moment that you're
Aaron.
at home
I-
doing that stuff. And then we meet up at the range, and then I can be like, hey, great job, we're getting tighter groups, but it's a little off to the right, so we know
right.
that this and this is working. Let's go ahead and fix this issue. And you just kind of, you whittle at that ability, or the proficiency, because shooting is absolutely a skill, not a talent.
Oh,
You're not
well, I
born with it. So
appreciate that. I feel better already because
mhm.
that's the thing is, even though Aaron went through this training with me, over the course of a year, you do kind of feel like, oh, I haven't been doing anything, but that makes me feel
Mhm.
good knowing 70% is at home.
Oh yeah.
70% you can do without even leaving the confines of where you live. So that makes me feel better. And Aaron, I'm just so thankful. I know we ran over a little bit longer than our typical shows, but this is very important, especially because I personally was a person that thought I would never buy a gun, thought I never would hold a gun. I didn't think there was anything positive coming from gun ownership. And I've done a complete about face, and I'm always singing Aaron's praises. And I just appreciate the work that you're doing so much. And I know you mentioned it before, but before we go, if you can tell all the listeners how they can contact you and obtain your services.
Mhm.
And even if they're not in North Carolina, you can consult with people virtually. You are
Yeah.
willing to travel some places, but
Yep.
again, your certification is in North Carolina. I just want to add that, but please let everybody know how we can support your services.
Yeah, absolutely. Any of the individualized training, even if you're just looking for, some advice or have questions, I'm always happy to take questions. Just shoot me an email. That you can email me at ForceMultiplierSolutionsLLC at gmail.com. Any and everything can spark a conversation, and then we can kind of determine if some of the services I offer are fitting or not. I'm very honest with it. I'm busy and you're busy, and if it doesn't line up, it doesn't line up. That I
Aaron's
don't
not a
really
sales
sell to
guy.
people.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're very
Um
gentle.
mhm. The but if you just kind of want to get more information on me and some of the services, you can visit my website at fms-training.com, fms-training.com. But yeah, I would definitely say, as far as concealed carry goes, if you're a North Carolina resident and have been for 30 days, 21 years or older in age, yeah, just shoot me an email and I can let you know what classes are coming up. But any of the other services that's nationwide, we can either do virtual. The only thing I don't do is I don't do any firearm handling virtually because
Right.
safety. So
Yes, yes. No,
um
I appreciate that. So, Aaron, we definitely have to have you come back because once I get my concealed carry permit officially, I need to get back in the shooting range with my new gun. So I still have to figure out. So I definitely will take you up on that offer for, accompanying me when I go to purchase a gun because as much as I love Carlos, I would like to have a second opinion. It's like buying a car or whatever, and you're the
of course.
specialist in that area. So I just want to thank you again, Aaron, for coming from behind the camera to be a guest today. And I want to thank all the listeners. As always, you can get prior shows at veronicaedwards.buzzsprout.com or balancevirtually.com, or you can go to the YouTube channel, The Veronica Edwards Show. And until next time, stay balanced and financially savvy.